Hello, hello, hello. I am hoping everybody is having a happy new year and a very prosperous new year as well. Welcome to, I think this is the first live I've done of the new year, right? I'm having all sorts of things pop up on my screen, so please just pardon me while I deal with all of that. So yes, I think this is the first live that we've done of the new year. So welcome. I hope your new year is going wonderfully smooth. In case you're wondering why I'm umming and ahhing, it's because I'm just going to copy and paste a link or two onto Facebook for our friends from Facebook to join in with us live. So if you'll pardon me, I'm just going to babble for a little bit and, say a bunch of useless banter that makes no sense to you and just generally talk all sorts of niceties while I'm doing that because, hey, I'm a guy and I haven't learned how to walk and chew gum at the same time. Okay. And I'll be the first one to admit it. And we're almost done with all of that. And then we'll actually have some things to talk about aside from general banter. Great. Hello, Autumn Rose. Well, so good to see people here. If you're joining us, please feel free to say hello. Feel free to post your comments in the chat window as well. Here is what I'm here to talk to you about. So first of all, I've been having a lot of new people on the channel lately, so I want to tell people a little bit about who I am and a little bit about what I do. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know all of this stuff. So this may seem just a little bit boring to you, but for those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Reed. And I work with astrology from India, which is called Vedic astrology. And I use the tools of astrology to help you to develop rock solid self-trust so that you can develop a life that is filled with purpose and passion and, yes, fulfillment. I'm going to have some news updates for you here in just a little while of a few different things that are going on, but why don't we kind of jump right into things? By the way, if you're just joining me, please feel free to say hello over in the chat window. That way I know that you're here. I'll have people to interact with, and it won't feel quite so lonely here just talking to my webcam. It's nice to actually have people to talk to. So I'm going to ask you a question, even though I know some of you may be kind of like, kids at a high school dance where you're just going to lurk up by the wall and not really say anything. But I hope that you do. Okay. So what is it that you think people really want from astrology? What do people really want from astrology? Autumn Rose, what do people really want from astrology? Ken Friday, what do people really want from astrology? Type it in the chat window. Let me know what you think people really want from astrology, right? Whatever first comes to mind for you, put it over in the chat window. And I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that. While you're doing that, I'll let you know that I have a masterclass coming up next week. It's called People Through the Planets, okay? People Through the Planets. I'm going to see if I can find the link to that for you. Bear with me just one moment while I walk and chew gum at the same time again. People Through the Planets is based on the planetary indicators of Jaimini astrology, and it'll help you to understand the people and, yes, the things that are in your life through astrology, right? And I'm going to teach people how to find these, some things that each of these indicators relate to, so much more. It's only $27 for the masterclass this coming Saturday, January 21st at 6:30 p.m. So we have some answers over here, right? So Autumn Rose put accurate predictions, I guess. And for those of you who are just joining us, I was asking people, what do you think people really want from astrology? And so some of the answers that I have over here, and you're free to place your own here, even if you're watching this on replay. Autumn Rose put accurate predictions, I guess. Ken Friday said they want to know the future. Autumn Rose put solutions to problems, make life better. They want to know about money, their job, relationships, and marriage. And you know something? Here is what I have learned through working with astrology for over 25 years, right? Just this year, I came to an understanding of what people really want from astrology. The only thing is I think on a certain level, they're not really aware that that is what they want. The things that are mentioned over here in the chat window, yeah, they're all part of it. People will go to astrologers because they're looking for accurate predictions. We'll touch more on that in a moment. They want to know the future. They want to know solutions to problems. They want to make their life better. They want to know how money or their job or relationships or marriage is going to go. But all of those are an external manifestation of something that is going on internally, right? So yeah, I would say about 90% of the time people go to an astrologer because they're going, am I going to get this job? Am I going to get married? Am I going to get into a relationship? Is my money situation okay? Right? So those are all things. And if you dig a little bit deeper beneath the surface in relation to all those things that people come to astrologers with, your first understanding might be that on a certain level, people want to be happy. They want to know, why their life is, why they're unhappy. They want to know if their life is going to be happy when they're seeking prediction. They want to know if it's going to be better, right? Those are all things that when people are going, I want to know if my money is going to go better. I want to know if my job is going to go okay. They're wanting to be happy. They want fulfillment, but there's something that's even deeper than that people are really seeking. Right? I'm going to see, I'll give you a couple seconds because obviously me just running my mouth all the time is not always the most interesting thing, but I'm just going to see if anybody can guess what people really want. If it's not about their money, and if it's not about their job, and if it's not about relationships, even though those are all external manifestations, what is it really about? If they don't want happiness, what is it that people really want? I'd be interested in seeing what you have to say over here in the chat window. While you're doing that, I wanted to let you know something else, which is the Easy Astrology Society, which is my online learning community, is now open once again for registration. And I have 2 tiers of registration. There's Easy Astrology Society Basic, which gives you access to all of the new beginners courses on the at the Easy Astrology Society. And there's also Easy Astrology Society Plus, which gives you access to all the new beginner courses, but also all 9 of my intermediate courses from previous webinars. Those are also available to you with the Easy Astrology Society Plus membership. These memberships start at $49 per month. If you remember the masterclass I told you about earlier, if you join the Easy Astrology Society, you can always attend the master classes that we do for free. Here's the link for you to do that. So nobody guessed the golden nugget question, which is, what is it that people really want from astrology? If it's not really about wanting to know about their job, if it's not about wanting to know their relationship, which I've already denied on a certain level that that's really what they're wanting to know, those are the external manifestations. And if it's not that people are really wanting to be happy from astrology, what is it? People really want to be able to trust themselves. Ultimately, that's what people want. They want to be able to trust themselves, right? So Autumn Rose just put, no one knows what they want. That's it precisely. It's because they don't trust themselves. Jessica said it, to know themselves, but that is to trust themselves, right? Because if you think of it on a certain level, right? We're here existing in a state of duality, somewhat disconnected from our soul. We're disconnected from our soul. We're wanting to connect to that, but our ego gets in the way. So we're not fully trusting of ourselves. But if I say that on the surface, what you're going to think like immediately is, well, of course I trust myself. I spend every day of my existence with myself. Granted, I'm always arguing with myself, and I always get angry with myself, and I always feel like I did something stupid. But yeah, I really, really trust myself. Right? So the thing is ultimately we don't trust ourselves, because all those things that we ask about when we go to an astrologer for prediction, those are based upon a lack of self-trust. So for instance, if we're sitting and or standing or walking or whatever it is that we're doing, okay, before like the Virgos have to chime in and have their say on that. That's not me giving Virgos a hard time. Okay, so if we're thinking about the fact that we want to know if we're going to get a job, really at the root of it isn't what's going on. The fact that we're going, I want to know, I don't trust that I can ever be successful in my life. I don't trust that I'll be okay if I don't get this job, because maybe I'll never get a job. I don't trust that, I'm going to do anything else other than work for a 9 to 5 my whole life, because I don't trust that I'm worthy of anything else. And so underneath all of that is a person who's not trusting themselves. So if a person's wanting to get married or wanting to know if they're going to get into a relationship, inside they're going, I don't trust that I'm worthy of love. So I don't trust that, that I don't trust myself to be worthy of love. I don't trust myself to be able to maintain a decent relationship. I don't trust myself to even get into a relationship at all, because I'll probably act like an idiot and mess it up, at first base before we even get to anywhere else, right? Okay. So money, I don't trust myself with money. I always make bad decisions and then I end up in debt. I don't trust myself with my health, because I might eat too many cakes over the course of the day and might do some things that I shouldn't do that are ultimately good for my own health. So at the root of it, everybody is really just wanting to trust themselves. But instead, we go after it in an external way that doesn't really support us building a foundation of self-trust. We go to an astrologer looking for a prediction. Now, this isn't me saying prediction is bad. On a certain level, everything in astrology deals to a certain degree with prediction. Even if we're looking at a person's life and understanding like what they're needing to learn or what they're needing to work on at this particular moment in time, even if we're looking at transits, we're looking at, on a certain level, prediction. But it's when we get into prediction and we start trying to go, you're going to meet somebody who has a mole on their left cheek and they'll be wearing blue, and you'll meet them in a restaurant on the 27th of January, and you'll form a relationship with this person when you're out having dinner with your friend, right? Those are the types of things that I've actually had people kind of come and ask me before. And the more detail you try to get out of prediction, the more off you'll be. But at the same time, with prediction, in terms of wanting to know how something is going to go, am I going to get into a relationship? Am I going to get a job? Even wanting to go to that depth with prediction is placing yourself in a position where you're not building self-trust. And I'll go a little more into depth with that. Astrology, when it comes down to predicting concrete things in life, when it comes down to predicting concrete things rather than just understanding patterns, when astrology is applied to predicting concrete things in life, it can only ever be 100% accurate about 60 to 70% of the time. Now, why am I giving like 2%, 3% there, I should say, right? Well, 100% accurate means you're getting it right. So you can only really get it right with astrology about 60 to 70% of the time. A well-renowned astrologer who's very well known, the great K.N. Rao, I think he once said that he considers a technique accurate if it's accurate 60 to 70% of the time. That means there's a good 30 to 40% chance that a prediction can go wrong. Okay, so if we're going to an astrologer and we're saying, I want to know if I'm going to get this job, with the astrologer sitting, spending hours poring over your chart, trying to get the greatest level of accuracy from it and making a prediction, and let's say they're telling you you're going to get the job, there's still a 30 to 40% chance that they're going to get it wrong. Every single time, there's a 30 to 40% chance, right? I know I've worked with predictive astrology extensively. What I've noticed is when you work with predictive astrology to that level, you're always going to end up with a letdown, or you end up with the opposite end of the spectrum too, which is sometimes an astrologer can predict something isn't going to go well for somebody. Right? Somebody might come to you and go, I want to know if I'm going to get my green card. And you look at their chart and you go, no, I don't think it's going to happen. And you're applying yourself to the situation. You're looking at it intensively. There's still a 30 to 40% chance that you can get it wrong and they'll get their green card. And then they spent all this time concerned that they weren't going to get it, and they end up getting it. So the truth of the matter is that prediction to that degree can always let you down. Guess what? That doesn't build self-trust. And it definitely doesn't build your trust in the astrologer, because then you begin to go, well, why should I work with an astrologer anyway if they're not going to be able to get predictions right? Because really, I think ultimately that's not what astrology is meant for. I think that wherever astrology comes from, and we still don't know that. We don't know the origins of where astrology came from, but wherever it came from, I think that we were given astrology to trust ourselves, to know ourselves, to be comfortable with ourselves, to be able to come here, be in our own skin, navigate this experience of consciousness, and feel actually okay doing that rather than feeling uncomfortable doing that. The only thing is that then we take those very same tools and we begin to use them in other ways, because the ego then begins to go, well, I want this from life, and I want that from life, and I want this concrete thing, and I want this job. And then the ego gets involved in using the tools of astrology to try to acquire and understand if it's going to get material things. So on one level, that's not necessarily bad, because everything is spiritual, but we're missing the purpose of it. To be quite fair, if you use astrology as a tool to develop rock solid self-trust, pardon me, you won't be in a position where you're concerned about whether you're going to get into a relationship or not. You won't be in a position where you're concerned about like how that job is going to go or whether you're going to get that job. You won't be in that position where you're that concerned about finances. You may be to a certain degree in all of those areas, but to the extent that you develop self-trust, using the tools of astrology to do so, right? That's the degree to which those things will no longer matter. Those things will no longer matter, because you'll go, you know what? If I want relationships, I can handle them. And if the universe makes it so that that's not meant for me, I can handle that too. Okay. If the universe doesn't want me to have that job, hey, that must be for the better. So I'll just take what I can, what I get from the situation, learn from it, and move on to the next situation. Right? That's what rock solid self trust does. That rock solid self trust, if somebody predicted to you and said, oh, you might earn some money at this time, you would go, yeah, but it might not happen. So I'll just go about following my heart and what's in here, and we'll see how it turns out, which is ultimately what you should always do, because this is the seat of your innocence, which is another important thing. Innocence is vital. And interestingly enough, if you know your Vedic astrology, you'll know that Mars is connected to Skanda or Kartikeya, who's a 7-day-old deity who defeated the demon army. Now, how can a 7-day-old child do that? Through innocence. Through innocence. Innocence has a natural logic to it. It has a natural logic that evolves from A to B to C just naturally because it understands the natural order of things. The human mind steps into the equation and puts all these concepts into it and puts all these desires and just completely and utterly messes up the concept of natural, innocent logic. We're meant to function with that natural, innocent logic, and that's what's kind of built into your heart. That space where you're not at odds with yourself, that space where you trust yourself. And that, pardon me, I'm going to get a drink of water so I don't keep doing that. That is ultimately what astrology gives you to the depth that you work with it, right? If you keep working with astrology, trying to understand any given moment in time, less from a predictive perspective in terms of how it's going to turn out, and more from the perspective of going, what is this about? Ultimately, what is this all about? If you approach astrology from the thing of going, I want to learn, I want to know what I'm meant to get from this, I want to know what this is all about, what lessons this brings my way, how this helps me to grow, and ultimately, the innocence to which I am meant to approach it, right? On a certain level. So, you may go, well, yeah, but isn't that approaching it with the preconceived idea? No, because it's understanding that that is a feeling that is naturally going to arise in you. Because you see, another thing is your horoscope really only shows your karmic tendencies, your inherent tendencies, and how you're likely to behave in any given situation, which at the root of that concept is the reason why prediction doesn't always work out, because karma means action. Karma has been taken to be interpreted to mean something like a sin you have incurred and how you're having to pay for it. Karma isn't about like sin. It's about actions that you've taken that form patterns, actions that you take in order to eradicate those patterns if they're not healthy for you, actions that you take to continue those patterns if they are healthy for you. Those things are really ultimately what karma is about. Okay. So if you approach life from that pure innocence of the heart, you begin to get into the space where you eradicate karma because your actions are not coming from a space of having all these attached concepts. And so what your horoscope will show to you is what is surfacing at that particular time, the karmic implications of it, and the nakshatras or the lunar mansions give you the tools that help you to understand how you can approach that to get the most from that lesson. And that is something that will just naturally arise in you. But if your mind is closed to the concept, you ultimately won't see it. And so knowing that ahead of time gives you the capacity to go, oh yeah, this is when this nakshatra is active. So that's likely going to bring lessons around this. So here is a good way for me to approach that and try to get a lesson from it to the extent that I'm able to maintain awareness in order to do so. These are ultimately what astrology is all about. And I would like to give somebody a chance to get a really good deal because I've only got one slot left to do this. I am presently offering my Empower Hour, which is my 60-minute consultation, the Empower Hour Plus, which is my 90-minute consultation, or the Empower Pack, which is my package of 3 60-minute consultations. Those are all being offered at over a 15% discount, okay? On all of those, that's a rather substantial discount. If you want to go schedule that, there's only one slot available. If you go to it and you get to it, and the price is still there because they're already all marked at that price, then that means that you got to it in time and you're that lucky person. So if you want to go schedule in at a 15% discount, actually it's even over 15%, you can follow the link that I just put in the chat window and it will take you to that page, and that will give you an opportunity to experience how I like to help you through astrology. Usually, pardon me, I'll tongue twist it here, usually using, that's hard to say, usually using techniques that revolve around Rahu and Ketu, going in and understanding the karmic implications at any given moment in time. Even if we're looking at your Saturn dasha, Rahu and Ketu will come into it. All those planets interact with the nodes. So generally your nodes are one of the most fundamental points of your horoscope. In addition to your ascendant, they're just as vital. Okay, so they're really important to understand. So we'll look at every dasha in terms of the karmic lessons that are there, in terms of how I'm working with the concepts of prediction for people going forward. I like using it as a planner because I want to empower you as the individual to approach your life in a way that's going to help you to get the most from this great mystery that gives us a vast wealth of experience. And I want you to have that opportunity. So I'll put that link once again in the chat window, and I'm going to see if anybody has any questions. If you have any questions based on things that I've just said or comments based on things that I've just said, feel free to type them over in the chat window. I'm going to scroll through and see what some of you have said in the comments section. Past the things that we looked about already. Autumn Rose is talking about no one has ever made accurate predictions about my future, always the past. And also said, let's see. Pardon me. I know I've gone quiet. So I'm trying to look at what somebody, if nobody's ever been able to predict correctly, it likely means that predictions are not something that you're meant to really have. And that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to not get good predictions. As a matter of fact, it means that you are given an opportunity to be liberated from the concept of prediction. So Jessica put the question over here, and I'm going to answer that here in a moment. So, if predictions don't work for you, it's trying to teach you that predictions are not really meant for you. And that's okay. Go with that, right? Try to develop self-trust. That's really ultimately the best thing to get from astrology, is to build the concept of self-trust. Oh, I'm just looking at myself on the screen, and when I turn to the side, it looks like my face gets cut off. Of course, I have a virtual background back here. Sorry, I know that was very random. So if prediction doesn't work for you, it's trying to tell you that, hey, this isn't the best way for you to work with astrology. You need to trust in your own heart. You need to trust in your own judgment. Approach it from that perspective. You'll find you get so much more from it. I can guarantee you that everyone here will get so much more from astrology if they approach it from that perspective. Okay. So Jessica was saying, I would love to know if you feel Ketu is where we are able to channel our soul. Well, here is what Ketu is about, because Ketu is about liberation. There are usually things that people miss about Ketu, which is Ketu and Rahu are really one and the same. So Ketu will, even though it ultimately gives liberation, it will at first give suppression. because K2 also relates to those beliefs that we cling on to, the way that we approach life because we either don't know any better or we think that it's going to work for us, or it maybe has worked for us and we would like for it to continue working for us, only it doesn't. K2 relates to all of those things. It relates to those past patterns. So Rahu's job in tandem with K2 is to pull the soul in the opposite direction and cause it to go explore fresh territory that may be a little unnerving to the person because, hey, it's the unknown, right? And so when the soul is exploring the unknown, it gets a little uncomfortable and things get a little too wild. And that's where K2 comes in, because K2 is that sense of familiarity to which we bring the lessons that Rahu has taught us, and we integrate those lessons, and we ultimately evolve, and we're ultimately liberated. But it's a process that happens between both of the nodes, because the nodes really represent your experience of duality, amongst many other things. Okay. Somebody else has said, is chart all that will make things happen, or is it that with true free will, with challenges, someone can make a difference? Okay. So that is a good question, but go back and listen to everything I've said so far. I think you'll probably get the answer to it, but I'll give you the answer in a nutshell here. So I want to see how many people here think that they are their horoscope. I want, at least one person to type in the chat window whether they think they are their horoscope or not. Okay. And I know people will go, I don't know if I want to do that because I know this is a trick question. and people tend to do that with things that they think are trick questions. Okay. So I'll tell you, because nobody has said, you are not your horoscope. I was saying this earlier. Yeah, somebody says, I am more than just that. Yes, you are more than just that. You are not your horoscope. You're not even the indwelling consciousness that's experiencing your horoscope. If the planets are incarnations of Vishnu, and the signs are the unconscious limbs of Vishnu that are awakening to the fact that they are Vishnu, then you ultimately are one with the universe. And you're seeing yourself as this thing that's limited. So you're not your horoscope. What your horoscope is it's something that shows your karmic tendencies, the way that you are inherently predisposed to behave at any given moment in time. Now, those karmic patterns are oftentimes very strong. So we can look at a horoscope and we can go, this period of time will bring some challenges with relationships. But we're taking it too far when we go, in my opinion, with the way I'm working with astrology now, we're taking it too far if we're going into it and going, this means a breakup, or this means I'm going to get divorced, because really we don't always know that. And I'll share a story on that here in a moment. If you watched my channel for a while, you probably heard it. It's about someone who wanted to get divorced and asked me if divorce was going to happen. I predicted divorce. They didn't get divorced, wanted to know what happened. I asked them if they tried to get divorced, and they went, no. And ultimately, that's what happened. Okay. So if we're looking at the karmic tendencies that are surfacing as being brought to the surface by the planets, and those karmic patterns are pretty strong, they can indicate, hey, there's some challenges with relationships at this particular time. It doesn't always follow that it will happen that you'll get divorced. It doesn't always follow that you'll make it through it. Your actions do begin to influence that. A lot of the great sages through time have said that your actions do matter. They do alter that experience, because then otherwise the concept of resolving your karma, there would be no such thing as resolving your karma. So ultimately, your actions do impact that. It's just that some of those patterns are very strong, and in order to integrate the lesson, we have to have those patterns there so we can take the information and learn from it and grow, right? So your chart isn't just these things will happen. Your chart is about things are coming to the surface. use your free will, which is ultimately part of the universe as well, in order to approach that situation so that you learn from it, and always go with your heart. Heart doesn't mean emotions. Heart means go with your ethics, your inspiration, what you naturally feel is right in that moment. And if you're confused with that, then that means you have to sort through what's going through your head so you can get to that space of innocence in your heart. All of which, by the way, astrology really helps you with. Okay. And I'm going to leave that link once again for some lucky soul to go and schedule either the Empower Hour Plus, or the Empower Pack at over a 15% discount. Okay. So let's see what we've got here. Yeah, somebody's saying, I just finished my second Sati phase in Saturn return, and it's been best period by far. Yeah, things like that can happen. That's the whole thing, is it's all how you approach the situation, ultimately. It's all how you approach it. I'll give a chance for any last minute questions, and then I'm going to call it a night because my throat's getting a little bit tired, but I wanted to come on and share with you. You can type a question over in the chat window while I'm talking if you want to. I wanted to share with you what people really want from astrology, which is ultimately they want self-trust. And if you approach astrology from the perspective of going directly there first and developing the self-trust, all those other things, they won't matter. It's just that we tend to kind of go about it all backwards and don't really handle it in the best way. You said you'd like to know my views. I'm sorry, what would you like to know my views on? I'm confused. On debilitation of planets. Debilitation of planets is, when a planet's debilitated, it can make things feel difficult. It doesn't always mean, whether I view those as a positive. Everything in your horoscope is a positive. It just means it's something you need to develop a lot more. That's what I would say about it. Okay, that's what debilitated planets are all about. And debilitated planets ultimately have a lesson that they bring to the person, and ultimately they have a gift too. And it's important to understand that everything in your horoscope has a gift. So just to share a few last minute things that I had mentioned before, I will put up here for you. If you're wanting to attend People Through the Planets, which is a masterclass that I'm doing on the planetary indicators or the karakas of Jaimini astrology, that is only $27. That's happening this coming Saturday, the 21st of January, 6:30 p.m. London time. You can go to this link and you can sign up for that. As I was saying to you before, if you would like to, sorry, I'm just trying to type something in here. You can also go join the Easy Astrology Society with memberships that start at $49 per month. And you can attend that masterclass for free. And once again, for those of you who may be more interested in the consultation and learning a little bit more about the empowered approach to astrology, here is the link to my astrological services page. Again, if you get there quickly enough, unless somebody else has beaten you to it already, which I will know here in just a moment. So that's a hint, which means if you're here now and you want to get this, you can go get it before I change the price. Okay, so then maybe it would be two, but I'm trying to make it just one. There's only one more slot available. Okay, so here is the link for that. And I already put that in the chat window. We'll do it again just for old time's sake. There we go. So thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and I'll hopefully see everybody soon. Please, as always, do take the very best care of yourself and look for a video